Welcome to my channel, Starlight Sci-Fi. Story, thanks for watching, please like and subscribe. Space is quiet in a way that feels almost personal. Commander Elias Ward had spent most of his life inside that silence. He liked it that way. Silence meant no alarms, no screaming radios, and no war. The listening station, orbiting the frozen moon of Tarth 9, had been designed for that exact purpose. Silence, its narrow corridors curved through the small station like veins. Inside metal bones, dim lights hummed softly. Outside the windows, distant stars burned without caring about anything happening inside. Elias preferred it. After 20 years in the Tan Defense Fleet, quiet felt like retirement. Officially, he was here to monitor deep space transmissions and scan for unknown signals. Unofficially, everyone knew the truth. The war hero had been quietly removed from the galaxy. Some people were too dangerous to keep in politics. Others were too famous to simply disappear. Elias Ward was both. He leaned back in his chair, staring at a slow-moving star map hovering above the console. A mug of cold coffee floated beside him, forgotten hours ago. Another exciting day, he muttered to the empty room. The station answered with silence. Then the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed. The calm star map collapsed into warning symbols. Elilia sat up instantly. Unknown vessel detected. The station announced. He frowned. No one visited Tarth 9. No one even knew the station existed except the Tan Fleet. He opened the long-range scan. The ship appeared on the display. It was enormous. Elegant alien architecture stretched across kilometers of hull plating. Curved spires, layered armor glowing. Energy veins running through the surface like living light. Ilya stared. That's not good, because he recognized it. 30 years ago, he had fought a war against that exact design. The Vian Empire, a civilization older than humanity by thousands of years. Their ships were faster, their weapons were stronger, their armies were larger, and during the war they had nearly erased humanity from existence. But the war had ended suddenly. Not with victory, not with defeat, just silence. The Viarans had vanished from human space without explanation. Until now, the massive ship drifted toward the station and stopped. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the airlock request appeared. Elias rubbed his face. Well, he sighed. That's probably bad. He walked slowly through the station corridors toward the docking bay. The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Standing on the other side was a tall woman. At first glance, she looked human. Then Elias noticed the details. Her ears were longer. Her eyes shimmered faintly with silver light. Her uniform was woven from layered metallic fabric that moved like liquid armor. Viaran, a royal one, he could tell from the insignia. She stepped inside the station. Then she looked at him, and suddenly she stopped breathing. Her eyes widened. For a moment the alien princess simply stared. Then her knees nearly gave out. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Elias blinked. Oh, he said slowly. That's usually not a good sign. She whispered something in her own language. Then she spoke again in careful human words. You cannot be alive. Elias scratched the back of his head. I get that reaction a lot. She walked closer slowly, as if approaching a ghost. My mother searched for you for 30 years, she said, voice shaking. She believed you died destroying the Devourer fleet. Elias exhaled. That old story again. Yeah, he said. About that, the princess studied his face carefully. You are Commander Elias Ward, he shrugged. Used to be, her voice broke. You saved my world. Now it was. Elias turned to stare. I did what? She wiped her eyes but kept looking at him, like someone who had just discovered legend was real. My name is Princess Elra of the Villian Empire. Elias nodded politely. Nice to meet you. She took another step closer. My mother has spent 30 years preparing for the return of the enemy. You defeated. Elias frowned. Enemy. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The Devourers. And suddenly Elias understood why she had come, because the war had never truly ended, and whatever was coming next was worse. Elra looked at him with desperate hope. The Devourers have returned. Elias closed his eyes slowly. He had hoped he would never hear that name again, because the Devourers were not an empire. They were not soldiers. They were something far worse, a species that consumed entire civilizations. And 30 years ago, humanity had stopped them once barely. Elra's voice trembled. They destroyed 3 Vian worlds in 2 weeks. Alilia's quiet retirement ended instantly. The war was back, and apparently he was the only one who had ever survived fighting it. He sighed. Well, he said quietly, that explains the crying. The Virian flagship was large enough to feel like a city. Elias stood inside the command chamber, watching stars move past the massive observation window. Princess Elra stood beside him. You fought them before, she said. Yeah, you defeated them. Elias shook his head. No, he looked out into the darkness. We survived them. The difference mattered. The Devourers had appeared without warning 30 years ago. Entire star systems vanished. Colonies stopped responding. Ships disappeared. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it was too late. The Devourers did not conquer. They harvested planets, cities, people, all consumed. The Vians had tried to fight them, so had dozens of other advanced civilizations. None succeeded except humanity. Elra studied him carefully. Hell, Ilia smiled faintly because humans panicked differently. She tilted her head. Explain. He tapped the holographic star map. The Devourers adapt faster than any military strategy. They learn from every attack, every weapon, every defense. So eventually nothing works. Elra nodded slowly. That is exactly what happened. Elias pointed at Earth on the map. So humanity stopped trying to win. She blinked. What? We made them think we were insane. 30 years ago, Elias had commanded the final human fleet. Instead of fighting normally, they did the opposite. They changed tactics every hour. Weapons were modified mid-battle. Ships rammed enemy vessels deliberately. Entire strategies were abandoned randomly. Human pilots made decisions the Devourers could not predict. Chaos became their weapon. Elra whispered in disbelief. You fought without strategy. Oh, we had strategy, Alilia said. It was just constantly changing. The Devourers could not adapt fast enough. Eventually, they retreated. Not defeated, just confused. Now they were back, but this time the Vilayan Empire stood alone. Your people need help, Ilia said quietly. Elra looked at him. Humanity has grown strong. Since the war, your fleets could save billions. Elias looked away. Humanity doesn't know. The Devourers are back. Her eyes widened. You never told them. No, why? He sighed. Because if humanity remembered them, they would build weapons capable of destroying half the galaxy. Silence filled the room. Finally, El whispered, "Then we are doomed." Ellis rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Not necessarily." She stared at him. "You have a plan." He smiled slightly. "Not yet. Good plans take time." At that moment, alarms exploded across the command deck. A massive red warning symbol appeared. "Devourer fleet detected." The hologram zoomed outward. Swarm of alien ships poured through hyperspace. Thousands of them, black shapes like living knives. Elra whispered in horror. "That is their harvest fleet." Elia stared calmly, then he cracked his knuckles. "All right, guess retirement officially over." The Devourer fleet arrived like a shadow swallowing the stars. At first, it appeared as a dark ripple across space, then the sensors began counting. Ships, hundreds, then thousands, then more. Princess Elra stood on the bridge of the Villian flagship, staring at the tactical display as red markers spread across the map like a disease. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "That is their full harvest fleet." Commander Ilias Ward leaned against the console beside her, arms folded. He looked calm, too calm, which somehow made the situation feel even worse. "Yeah," he said quietly, "that looks about right." El returned to him in disbelief. "You fought this before?" More or less, more or less." Ilias rubbed his chin thoughtfully as the enemy swarm continued advancing. "Last time there were fewer ships. That does not comfort me." "Yeah, it shouldn't." Across the bridge, alien officers moved quickly, their voices sharp with controlled panic. Defensive shields were raised, weapons powered up, fighter wings prepared for launch. Every Vian warship formed a perfect defensive formation around the flagship. It was beautiful, elegant, precise. Ellis watched the formation for several seconds, then he sighed. "That's going to get everyone killed." Elira blinked. "Excuse me." He tapped the tactical screen. "The Devourers are watching you." The alien fleet paused. "Their species evolves during combat," Ellis continued. "They study patterns, predict movements, learn from every attack." Elra nodded slowly. "Yes, that is why no one can defeat them." Ilya smiled faintly. "That's also why humans did." She looked at him sharply. "Hell." He straightened and walked toward the command chair. "By doing the one thing their brains cannot understand." The Devourer fleet suddenly accelerated. Thousands of ships surged forward like a black tidal wave. The distance between fleets shrank rapidly. The bridge filled with warning alarms. Elra felt her heart pounding. "We must prepare for engagement." Ilya sat down in the command chair. Then he pressed the fleet broadcast button. His voice echoed across every Vian ship. "All right, everybody," he said casually. "Let's try something new." Elra stared. "You cannot be serious." Alilas ignored her. "Step one," he said, "break formation." The bridge went silent. One officer choked. "Commander, that would destroy our defensive grid." "Correct, but that is madness." "Also correct." Elira stared at him. "You are joking." "I wish." He gestured toward the screen. "Trust me." For several 10 seconds nothing happened. Then one Vian captain obeyed. His ship drifted out of formation. Then another, then 10. Soon the entire fleet scattered across space. Perfect defensive structure collapsed into chaos. The Devourer fleet reacted instantly. Their ships adjusted formation. They analyzed the new positions. They predicted attack routes, Elra whispered. They are adapting. Ellis nodded. Exactly, he pressed the broadcast button. Again, step 2, turn off half your weapons. Several alien officers nearly fainted. That will leave us defenseless. Ilya shrugged. Yeah, but it will also confuse them. Across the fleet, weapons powered down, energy signatures changed. Unpredictably, the Devourer sensor struggled to analyze the sudden shift. Elra looked at Ellis like she was witnessing insanity. Commander, this is not strategy, he smiled. Oh, it is human strategy. The Devourer fleet entered weapons range. Thousands of dark ships surged forward. The battle was seconds away. Ellis gave the next command. Step 3, broadcast. Terran audio files. The bridge crew froze audio files. Music. Elira blinked. You want us to sing at them? Not exactly. Seconds later, every VIAN ship began transmitting random human music into open space, loud, chaotic, completely pointless. Rock music blasted across the battlefield. Ancient orchestras, electronic noise. Someone accidentally played a children's cartoon theme song. The Devourer fleet hesitated. Their signal processor attempted to decode the transmissions. They failed. Their prediction models began collapsing. Elra stared at the console in disbelief. They do not understand. Ellis grinned. Exactly. Then he gave the final order. Step 4, everyone attack however you feel like. Silence filled the bridge. That is not an order, an officer whispered. Ilya shrugged. It is today. And suddenly, the Vian fleet exploded into chaos. Ships dove forward at strange angles. Some retreated unexpectedly. Others charged directly into enemy lines. Missiles launched in spirals. Energy beams fired wildly. Fighter squadrons flew pattern that made no tactical sense. There was no formation, no logic, no predictable movement. The Devourers tried to adapt. Their computers calculated millions of possibilities. But every second the battle changed. Humans called it improvisation. To the Devourers, it looked like insanity. Their targeting systems overloaded. Ships collided. Attack predictions failed. Their entire strategy depended on predicting enemy behavior. But this enemy had no pattern. Within minutes, the Devourer fleet began collapsing. Ships rammed each other, weapons fired at empty space. Their formation shattered. Elra watched in stunned silence. This cannot be real. Illas leaned back calmly. Works every time. Finally, the Devourer fleet did the one thing no one had ever seen before. They retreated. Thousands of ships turned and vanished into hyperspace. Running, the battle was over. Silence filled the bridge again. No one moved. No one spoke. Finally, Elra looked at Ellis. You defeated them. He shook his head. No, we just confused them enough to leave. She stared at the empty starfield. The galaxy has fought them for centuries. Entire civilizations were destroyed. Her voice trembled slightly. And you stopped them with chaos and music. Ilya stood and stretched. Humans are good at weird solutions. Elira stepped closer. Her voice was softer now. Commander Ward, there is something I do not understand. Only one thing. She ignored the joke. Why does your species fight like this? Elilas walked toward the massive observation window. Stars glittered Across the darkness, he watched them, quietly before answering, because humans grew up on a dangerous planet. He folded his arms. Earth tried to kill us every day. Storms, predators, disease, other humans, so we learned something important. Elra waited. When normal plans fail, his faint smile returned. You make new ones. He turned back toward her, vast. She studied him for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. The Devourers will remember this battle. Good, they may return stronger. Elia shrugged. Probably, and if they do, he looked back at the stars, then he answered calmly. Then humanity will get even weirder. Across the silent galaxy, the Devourer fleet changed course, not toward Earth, but away from it. For the first time in their ancient existence, the hunters had discovered something terrifying. A species they could not predict. Species they could not understand. A species that fought wars with madness, creativity, and impossible courage. Humans, and sometimes that was the most powerful weapon in the universe.